Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming today to hear this message. I apologize, I don't have a PowerPoint today. Thank you. So, it's been kind of a busy week. Earlier in the week, we went to Telluride. And I realized that actually, even though Telluride is in the state, a lot of people have never heard of it because it's a 6-hour drive. And most people don't want to drive 6 hours to go somewhere in their own state. But it's beautiful. And I should have brought pictures, but I didn't. But if you ever get a chance to go, there's lots of hot springs, just one of the most beautiful areas in the country. In this part of the country. The city is kind of nestled in between two mountains, and then at the end of the city, well, it's not a city, it's a town, it's like 5 blocks wide, and then at the end there's a waterfall, and it's really quite beautiful. So, yeah, nice place for a vacation. Yeah, they were mining gold at one point, but some of the places there, they'll charge you $1,200 a night to stay. So, but you can find cheaper places, but it's kind of that kind of becoming that kind of a resort place where only the really wealthy people can go. But I did have the opportunity to talk to a young man. He's just a few years older than me. And I get kind of interesting reactions from people when I tell people that I'm a pastor. Sometimes people ask, is it normal that you can be a pastor at your age? Because I think that for a lot of people, they're thinking, priests and people who, they go through lots of training and education, and then when they're in their 40s or their 50s with gray hair, they're, up on the pulpit, and, I don't know what to say to those people. I just, this is the way it is. It is the way it is. And that's fine for me because I don't really like the idea of having to do it that way or doing things the way everybody else does it. I like the surprise on people's face when I tell them I'm a pastor and I'm, young and I don't have any training. It's fun. But yeah, me and this young man got into this conversation, and I was asking him a little bit about his life and how he was saying that he grew up in the Mormon religion, and I was asking him a little bit about that, and then he's asking me, so what do you believe? And it was fun to get in the conversation because this particular young man wasn't so religious. So I felt like I could just be comfortable to say whatever I wanted with him. And I wouldn't feel like I would be maybe criticized for my beliefs. And so I just said, we believe in the Bible, but we don't believe that the Bible has to be literally interpreted. And we believe in Jesus, but we don't believe that he's coming back, as reincarnated or in the clouds. And we don't believe that, that God created the world in 6 literal days. And he was like, finally, he put up his arms. He's like, that's so, he was refreshed. I was kind of surprised. I didn't know how his reaction was going to be. But he was kind of inspired that you could be a religious person, but you didn't have to believe in a literal interpretation of the Bible. Or you didn't have to believe that, as many people do believe that, for example, the saints that died, thousands of years ago are going to rise from their graves, at the time of the second coming. Or, many of these other things that are kind of predicted in the Bible. And anyway, it was a really fun experience, and we've had several experiences like that. It's funny, ever since we moved here, many people are asking us about, maybe just because we're pastors and they think that that's, they're curious about it, but we have a community garden a few blocks away, and my wife, she kind of is more inspired about it than I am. But she's over there, and the person who runs the community garden is a lady, maybe a few years older than us. And they were just over there, and they got into conversation. So what is your faith all about? What do you believe? And it's really cool because I think that a lot of people are really interested. There's a lot of people who are really open to an understanding of faith and God that is based in science. that is based in common sense understanding. It was really cool. Yesterday, Reverend Wantete did and the whole French ministry, they did a workshop. And one of the things that he said really stands out in my mind. He said, God gave us a brain so that we could use it, so that we could think. And I thought that, that really, in many ways, really sums up our teaching. Not that it means less of God, or that it means less of Jesus, or that it means less of the Bible, but it's an interpretation that makes sense to the modern person, to common sense, to science. And I think that, for me, that I love that about it. I just been reflecting a little bit this week. I don't know how many of you know, but so the 3 older kids went to Missouri with Wamporn about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And then earlier this week, Adonia left with Annalise. So I'm living the single man's life for a few weeks. And it's really interesting. I've got if I allow myself to just kind of be lazy, it's so easy. It's kind of just, no one's going to know. But it's okay, because I have a really long to-do list, and I've just kind of been hammering away at it, and it's been fun. But it has given me a little bit of time to reflect, and one thing I was thinking about is, we've been here a little over a year and a half now as pastors, and in this, seemingly kind of a short time, I noticed that a lot of my ways of thinking and my attitude about things in our movement and towards the divine principle and towards true parents, our founders, has actually really changed a lot. And I don't know if any of you feel this, but I'm really feeling this kind of a need to return to our roots, like return to our traditions. That's why I requested that Sungmin and the band perform the song that you heard earlier, the song Pledge. That's really, in my mind, one of the most beautiful holy songs. And actually, we almost never sing it or perform it. And this was a song that was written by one of our early members of our movement in Korea. And only our movement has this song. But it's just a really beautiful song about this person's heart to want to follow in our true Father's footsteps, to want to, despite whatever hardships or difficulties that they had to go through, they wanted to continue and follow in that way. And I feel saddened that we have these beautiful songs, but we don't. Many of them are kind of hidden away, like we almost never sing or perform them anymore. And I've really felt lately a desire to kind of really reconnect with those roots again, reconnect with those beautiful songs, reconnect with the Word. We are, in the middle of 40 days of, praying and reading, and so I've really taken this opportunity to step up my efforts to immerse myself in God's Word on a daily basis. And it's been so refreshing, and I want to share a couple, well, maybe one quote that, that I was reading in this book here, Chambu Mogyang. It's a really great book. I heard that Nancy here stayed up till 3 o'clock one day reading it, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I can relate with that a lot because as I read it, I find lots of inspiration. Reading a lot of things I've never read before. Here's one that I want to read. This is from True Father, Reverend Moon, and he was sharing about kind of the early days of the movement, back when we didn't have church buildings, when we just had a few people in a mud hut in Korea during the Korean War. He said, "Even though I had a mouth, I did not speak. Although I harbored bitter sorrow over the way the people of my nation treated me, I endured. It was not because I was spineless. I understood that Jesus had to endure for 30 years of his life, and God had to go through great pains to find the right way to establish his foundation. He persevered for 2,000 years since Jesus' time to lay a solid base to accomplish his will. Therefore, I too endured, saying, let the typhoons come, let the snowstorms come. I knew these harsh conditions were only temporary and would pass away. It is the same with those in society who boast about their success. It will pass away. What was my responsibility? What did I have to do when I found myself in the position of being accused, chased out, and even sent to prison? For the sake of all humanity, to eradicate all the suffering of the world, I had to be struck. I thought, in pioneering the path of suffering worldwide, can one avoid difficulties? Isn't that such common sense? I thought, in pioneering the path of suffering worldwide, can one avoid difficulties? I told myself it was natural to face hardship. It was not because I am a fool that I accepted these circumstances. The history of the providence of restoration had to unfold this way. For the providence to advance, there had to be someone like me who was willing to take such a path. This was the condition on which I established the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity. And as we know, that's who we are, present day. There's another quote. I'm sorry, I was thinking to have a picture, but the first church, our first church was a mud hut, right? It was a hut made out of basically cardboard, ration boxes, and it was on a hill with water flowing through it. And this was kind of the history, the beginning of our movement back in the 50s, I think. And this is a passage about that time where Father said, there was a well in Beimildong, and people came to draw water from it. When they overheard our Sunday worship, they were confused, thinking, there are rumors that the people in that house never fight with each other, but these days it seems they are fighting. On one occasion, a student from a theological seminary came to visit me and said, in history, people even greater than you have also dreamed of uniting the world, but they cannot accomplish it. How can you, in this place, think that you will bring unity? While I was talking with him, I thought about how I looked, and I realized that I must surely look pitiful. Who would believe the things I was speaking about in a house built so poorly that people could hear water running through its little drain beneath the floor? My guests ate and dressed better than I did and had a higher standard of living, so they would not believe what I taught. When that seminarian heard what I was saying, my words sparked a hot debate in the area. People who talked with the seminarian said, that man up on the hill seems so naive. He does not look like the kind of person who would say such things. Yet his words are incredible. He speaks of turning the whole world inside out and heaven and earth upside down. They said, his place is so shabby and miserable that it is a place fit only for spirits to live. Yet he speaks of formidable things, such as moving the whole world with one hand, unifying Korea, and uniting the world. So, as you know, as we all know, from such humble beginnings, he created such an incredible movement. You know, sure, with shortcomings and challenges pretty much every step of the way, but nonetheless, it didn't stay a crazy man in a mud hut speaking of great things. From there, it turned into a worldwide movement. And I think that as I read things like this on a daily basis, my mindset changes. And it reminds me of this saying, you are what you eat, right? We're talking spiritually food though, right? You are what you eat. And I was realizing that, you know, in our life, you know, there's so many, we live in a culture that, you know, doesn't really have anything to do with God. And it doesn't really teach us a heavenly way of life. And you watch TV, you listen to radio or other music. You know, you walk around, you see the billboards, you see everything. And it doesn't really teach us anything about how to live a godly life or how to live a life that, you know, we can be proud of when we go before God someday in the far future. But when I read words like this and many others, it inspires me to want to live a certain kind of way, doesn't it? Like, doesn't it, when you read those kind of words, doesn't it kind of like cuts through all the excuses and the challenges and just kind of gets to the essence of what is important in life? And no, we don't have to live, we don't have to go through the same things that our founders went through. That's something that they had to do, and we don't have to do those same things. But at the same time, for me, I don't know about you, but when I hear those kinds of testimony about the way they lived and what they had to do to be able to get from where they were to where they are, it inspires me to want to live that way too. Like, I want to not be able to cringe in front of difficulties and hardships. One thing that we learn in the world, in this world that we live in, is that no one should have to suffer, right? No one should have to go through hardships or difficulties. But that sounds really nice, but I just don't know if that's true. Because for me, everything that I've really found in my life to be worthwhile, I had to work for it. I had to sacrifice something for it. And sometimes it might have involved a little bit of suffering temporarily. And so sometimes I talk with people about, when I look at the kind of shows that I watched when I was growing up, and we reflect on how, wow, things have really changed in 20 years. The movies, the cartoons, the books, things have really changed a lot. And I would say probably not for the better. But we have amazing truth and amazing words that I'm really feeling like this is the focus of what we should be trying to bring to people. This is what we have that's unique and special, that other people don't have, and other people are looking for. I mean, we can give sermons about, self-help and improving, relationships and finding our goals. I think actually all those things are quite important, but not at the sacrifice of what is truly important to us. And in reality, you can go to many other churches and many other places to get really good guidance on how to be successful in life, how to make money, how to make your marriage work, how to deal with past traumas or difficulties, find healing, many different things like that. So you don't have to come to our church to get those things. I have a friend who was visiting me from Ohio, and he was saying that he was visiting this church. Basically, it's like a millionaire club kind of church. The pastor is a multimillionaire, and pretty much most of the people who go to the church are millionaires. And there's lots of focus on sharing, how to be successful in not just in making money, but in all different aspects of life. It just happens to be that all these people are pretty successful at making money. And I would love to be that kind of a church. I think that we should aim for that as our goal, but not in the same way. We don't want to forget. We don't want to forget our holy songs, and we don't want to forget how precious the divine principle is, and we don't want to lose sight of these kind of precious words like what you can read in these books. So, the message that I'm just conveying today, after everything is all said and done, is that what we are what we eat. And we want to be courageous people. We want to be people with the deep roots. And I think that in our lives, there's so many things going on. We've got our kids, We've got our families, we've got our jobs, we've got to make money, etc., etc., etc. But let's not forget that if we don't eat good words, spiritual words on a daily basis, then we'll become whatever those other things are that are present in our life more than what we actually want. So that's my message today. Thank you very much.